A parking garage in Malaysia. A bamboo pole. 2 jugs of water tied to each end. That is not a training montage from a low-budget movie. That is an Olympic gold medalist, 9 months before the biggest competition of her life, with no gym, no equipment, and no idea if she would even be allowed to compete. She won anyway, by 1 kilogram. That story is coming. So is the story of a boy who found his coach dead by the side of a road and broke a world record 2 weeks later. So is the story of a man who was banned from his sport for 2 years and came back to break a record that had stood since before he was born. 5 athletes. 5 moments where everything should have ended. 5 times it didn't. We're counting them down. And the last one on this list might be the most unbelievable comeback in the history of the sport, but you have to earn it, because every one of these stories gets heavier than the one before it. If this is your first time on Lift Icon, hit subscribe right now. By the end of this video, you will wish you had found this channel sooner. Let's go. Long before he became the youngest world champion in a decade, before the world records, before anyone outside a small Bulgarian town had ever heard his name, one moment nearly ended everything. Carlos Nasar was 17 years old. He had already broken the senior world record in the clean and jerk. 17. Against grown men who had spent a decade building toward numbers, he reached in his first senior world championships. Then his Achilles tendon tore. For a weightlifter, that is not just an injury. It is an attack on the exact muscle group that generates the explosive power the entire sport depends on. Careers have ended on less. But that wasn't the worst part of 2022. Weeks before the World Championships in Bogota, Colombia, his coach Ilian Ilyev, the man who spotted a 10-year-old boy lifting 45 kilograms and told everyone around him that this child would become Olympic champion, had a heart attack on his way to a training session. He died by the side of the road. Nasar competed anyway. He bombed out of the snatch completely. 0 valid lifts. The internet did what the internet always does. Questions. Doubts. Whispers that the story of Carlos Nasar had peaked too soon. He was 18 years old and people were already writing the ending. Then he walked back out for the clean and jerk and lifted 220 kilograms. A new world record. In the same competition where he had just failed completely. Weeks after burying the only coach he had ever known. Nobody has ever held senior world records in 2 different weight classes at the same time. Carlos Nasar is the only man in history who has done it. Everyone remembers the world record. Almost nobody remembers that it happened in the same session as the collapse. Number 4. Everyone in Georgia knew his name by the time he was 20. World champion. World record holder. The most exciting young super heavyweight the sport had ever produced. Then it all disappeared. Not through injury. Not through age. Through a phone call nobody wants to receive. A doping violation. A 2-year ban. Gone from the platform at 19 years old, right as his career should have been exploding. 2 years is a long time in any sport. In weightlifting, where explosive strength and competition sharpness fade without live pressure, 2 years can be the difference between a legend and a forgotten name. The conversation around super heavyweight lifting moved on without him. Other names filled the space he had left behind. October 2015. Lasha Talakhadze is finally eligible to compete again. He walks back onto the platform at the World Championships and wins. Not a cautious return. Not a modest comeback performance to shake off the rust. He won the World Championships in his very first competition back, and the message to the rest of the sport was immediate. The 2 years hadn't erased anything. If anything, they had built something bigger. By 2021, Lasha Talakhadze would lift 492 kilograms in a single competition, breaking a world record that had stood for 31 years, a number every generation before him had accepted as the ceiling of human possibility. But we'll get to exactly how impossible that number is later. Because his story isn't done yet either. And what happens after he retires might be the strangest twist on this entire list. Number 3. His father built the gym he trained in, put a barbell in his hands at 7 years old, believed in him before there was a single result to point to. Rizki Juniansyah's entire family lifted. His mother competed. His siblings competed. His brother-in-law won 2 Olympic medals. Weightlifting wasn't something he discovered. It was the only thing his family had ever known. In 2023, his appendix ruptured. Emergency surgery. 6 months out of training, right in the middle of Olympic qualification, a window that does not wait for anyone's recovery timeline. He came back with less than 6 months before Paris. 1 competition left to qualify. Win it or watch the Olympics from home. He didn't just qualify, he set a world record. Then he went to Paris and won gold. Indonesia's youngest ever Olympic champion. He called his father right after, told him he had money now, bought a motorcycle, bought his mother a house. Then, at the end of 2024, his father was killed in a motorcycle accident. He stopped training, not for a week, for 2 months. The Olympic champion, the world record holder, sat away from the sport entirely because the man who put the barbell in his hands was gone. His family pulled him back to the gym his father had built. December 2025, Southeast Asian Games. The same country where he'd broken his first world record 18 months earlier. He lifted 365 kilograms. A new world record total. The heaviest ever recorded in his weight class. The man whose record he broke texted him minutes later. 3 words, 205 kilograms looked easy. His father never saw it, but everyone else did. Number 2. Before we get to the top of this list, here's a question worth sitting with. What actually stops an Olympic dream? Injury? Age? A federation that stops believing in you? For this next athlete, it was a virus that shut down the entire planet. Hidilyn Diaz had already made 3 Olympic appearances for the Philippines, a country that had competed in every Summer Olympics since 1924 and had never once won gold, not one, in 97 years. She grew up the 5th of 6 children in Zamboanga City. Her father drove a tricycle for a living. As a kid, she lifted plastic pipes and homemade weights cast in old tin cans because that's what was available. By 2020, she was one of the best weightlifters on the planet, training for what could be the Philippines' breakthrough moment. Then the pandemic hit. She was stuck in Malaysia, her training base, separated from her family, with the Tokyo Olympics postponed by a full year and every gym in the country shut down. No equipment, no facility, no idea when or if competition would resume. She improvised. A local weightlifting official renovated his mother-in-law's garage in Malacca into a makeshift gym. She trained there, surrounded by chickens and the sound of passing motorcycles. When she couldn't access proper weights, she filled duffel bags with water jugs and balanced them on a bamboo pole. She sprinted up parking ramps for conditioning. She posted the videos herself. Nobody was covering this story because nobody knew yet how it would end. We were wondering where we would train and if our journey toward Olympics will stop, she wrote in November 2020. Good thing we became creative to find ways to train. 9 months later, Tokyo. Final lift of the competition. She needed to beat China's Liao Chuyun, the reigning world record holder and the overwhelming favorite. Diaz lifted 127 kilograms in the clean and jerk. 1 kilogram more than Liao's total. 1 kilogram. After a bamboo pole and water jugs in a converted garage, the Philippines' first Olympic gold medal in 97 years of trying. Which brings us to number 1. You already met him at number 4. But what happened after his world record? After the 492 kilograms, after he became the most dominant weightlifter alive, is stranger than anything else on this list. Lasha Talakhadze retired. Soft retired, technically, after winning his 3rd consecutive Olympic gold at Paris 2024. He walked away from the platform and into Georgian politics, eventually working toward a seat in parliament. Everyone assumed that was the end. The 492-kilogram world record would sit there, untouched, the same way Taranenko's 31-year-old record had once seemed permanent, until Talakhadze himself proved permanent doesn't exist in this sport. Then, in January 2026, a video surfaced. A team doctor posted a clip of Talakhadze walking back into the training hall, lacing up his shoes, warming up like nothing had changed. The caption read, "The king is back. He is aiming for something no human being has ever done in the history of the sport. 500 kilograms, 8 more than his own untouched world record. A number that would put him not just ahead of every other weightlifter alive, but ahead of every version of himself that has ever existed. Georgia's federation president has already floated hosting the 2026 European Championships in Talakhadze's hometown region so that if it happens, if a human being finally crosses 500 kilograms, it happens in front of his own people. He is 32 years old. He already came back from a 2-year ban once and became the greatest of all time. Now he's coming back from retirement itself, chasing a number that has never been reached by anyone, in any weight class, at any point in recorded history. If he gets there, this list gets rewritten. Because every comeback you just watched, the coach who died, the appendix surgery, the bamboo pole in a parking garage, all of it was about getting back to where an athlete used to be. Lasha Talakhadze is the only one on this list trying to reach somewhere no one has ever been. So here's what I want you to tell me in the comments. Out of these 5 comebacks, Carlos Nasar, Lasha Talakhadze's first return, Rizki Juniansyah, Hidilyn Diaz, and Talakhadze's 2nd comeback chasing 500 kilograms. Which one hit you hardest? And do you think Lasha actually gets there? Drop it below. Every single comment gets read. And if you want the full breakdown of what happens when Lasha Talakhadze steps back onto a competition platform for the first time since Paris 2024, subscribe to Lift Icon right now. That video is coming, and after everything you just watched, you already know it's going to be worth it.